Coming up on today's episode of Project Lifetime.
I was hospitalized and my doctors wanted to start the heart transplant evaluation process. And that hit me really hard, that I should never work so hard in a job that I don't take care of myself.
Welcome to the Project Lifetime podcast. It features interviews with people about how to live better with the time we have. I'm the creator and host, Michelle Sen. Today's guest, Jason Au, is a 24-year-old living in Toronto, Canada. He's a prog designer at Uber, photographer, foodie, and former social media influencer. Jason has late-onset muscular dystrophy. When he was 17, doctors said he had a 50% chance to live 2 more years. You'll learn how Jason manages his health at work and in his personal life. Jason's story reminds us that we can overcome even life-threatening challenges by having the right perspective. Let's dive right in. Here's Jason.
I'm 24 years old and I live in a city called Mississauga, Ontario in Canada. It's very close to downtown Toronto, but it's more of a suburban neighborhood. I recently graduated from a university called Wilfrid Laurier University, and it's a small school based out of Waterloo, Ontario. Right now, I'm currently at Uber as a product designer.
So, both of us have our own health conditions. Can you share what you have and when it started affecting you?
Yeah, so I have muscular dystrophy, and it's caused by this gene called the Desmond gene. For me, it's affecting me the most through heart failure right now. So that's what I manage mainly on my day-to-day. And it also affects my speech a little bit. So sometimes my speech is a bit more muffled. But yeah, I was diagnosed when I was 17. We didn't know I had this genetic mutation, and it kind of presented itself as heart failure. And I've been kind of managing it throughout university and through work as well. But yeah, it's been a lot of up and down, but it's also taught me a lot about what my limits are and like how I can excel in my career.
How does it impact your daily life right now?
One of the hardest parts is kind of managing my symptoms day to day. I might feel tired or, I might not be feeling so great. And I have a lot of meetings a lot of the times, but sometimes when I do feel really unwell, I make sure I let my managers know and kind of just take the time that I need to recover, and hopefully the next day is better. And I think the other hard part is sometimes I get so busy with work, I kind of forget that I have this kind of condition I need to take care of, and I might forget to take my medicine or take my supplements, and it's like kind of getting used to the routine and managing all those things that kind of keep me going can be a challenge.
Yeah, I remember how during our internship at Uber, you were feeling so tired and you had this headache because of new medication you're trying for your heart. Most people don't understand how difficult it is to manage a condition like this day to day. For those who don't understand what muscular dystrophy is, can you describe what your initial diagnosis and prognosis were?
My muscular dystrophy is, and there's many types up there, but mine is a little bit more unique. Mine kind of was a late onset muscular dystrophy, and for me, essentially one of the proteins in the muscle cell, and it was genetically mutated when I was born, and that means it weakens very easily over time, and there is no way of regaining that strength as it weakens over time. So it's affecting my heart. My heart is very weak and only roughly pumps at 45%. But for the rest of my body, it's a slow progression of weakness. And over time, both skeletal muscles internally and externally they'll continue to weaken. So my initial prognosis was a 50% chance to live 2 years. And that was really tough to hear. But now I'm over 5 years, and like I'm continuing to remind myself that maintaining my health is really important. So, my day to day involves maintaining my heart health, but also starting to maintain my muscle health around my body as well, so that um, within 10 years, I can likely still walk, but after that, it's very likely I will start needing a cane or a wheelchair. So, starting to maintain my strength that I have now is really important on a day to day.
Absolutely. In the past, you've sometimes had more negative experiences during internships. Can you talk about them and what you've learned from them?
Yeah, of course. I think with all people trying to start out in their career, they try their hardest. And I've definitely worked at other places that have much longer working hours, and that's part of their work culture. And I wasn't very transparent about my condition at the time. So I just, when I was feeling unwell, I hid it from others. I worked just as long hours as everybody else. Sometimes it would be from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I've had occurrences where I had to be hospitalized because I was feeling unwell. And probably one of the worst times was I was feeling really unwell. I was hospitalized, and my doctors wanted to start the heart transplant evaluation process, and that hit me really hard. That I should never work so hard in a job that I don't take care of myself. And thankfully, I was able to recover partially from that, and I've been fairly stable since then. But it was a really big lesson for me to take care of myself.
That's great. I'm glad you learned that lesson. Right now, you work at Uber, which is a very fast moving place. How do you set boundaries at work?
They're definitely very fast paced, but they also very much respect my limits and what I'm comfortable working within and how I work best as well. So I think how I make sure I set boundaries is, for example, like after 6 p.m., I set my Slack messages to mute all notifications, just so that I think personally, I realized that having that time off for my mental health is actually really important for my physical health as well. And I let my coworkers know that, after a certain hour, I probably won't be accepting meetings or responding to messages. And I think having that time to rest gives me the energy to perform well during the day as well. Um, so I think that's one way I really set my boundaries. And then also being really transparent with the people around me about what my boundaries are and why. And surprisingly, people have been very open about it. And recently, I've kind of experimented with how can I kind of share my story a little bit more, and kind of push my story and what my boundaries are to more people on my team. And at Uber, we had an opportunity to share our origin story, and I shared, my health condition and what inspired me to be a designer, and it resonated with a lot of people, and it made me feel really empowered that I can be myself at work.
It sounds like in the past you were more reluctant to share, but now you're realizing that when you share, you help so many other people find the strength in themselves to overcome whatever unique challenges they have.
Yeah, and I was hoping that, it could help spark some conversations that aren't often talked about at work. And a few people definitely reached out to me afterwards. And it was just nice to know that other people are going through different things, um, but we are all trying to figure out what the right boundaries are and create the right culture that works for everyone. I hope by sharing my story, it can help some people, and that's all I can ask for.
It definitely will inspire people. How's your muscular dystrophy affecting your long term plans?
Definitely, it can get difficult when you think about your condition and what it means for your career, right? And I have had a lot of thoughts about it, in terms of my heart, I have to be prepared to take time off if I were to get a transplant one day. But eventually, I know that I will also probably lose my ability to speak very well, and also to breathe very well as well. Sometimes in meetings, I feel like I start running out of breath, and it gets a little difficult. But um, I think my mindset is that currently I'm still able to do what I love, and I'm constantly reevaluating whether this is the right career for me. But it definitely does put things in perspective of what I want to do in the future. And I'm not entirely sure what that is yet, but maybe it'll be switching out of design and doing something else. But I've thought along the lines of maybe running my own blog or maybe going into more design education, where I can help others create their portfolios and help them learn how to get into the industry. So for me, I think I'm just taking it day by day. I enjoying what I'm learning now and then seeing where just kind of it takes me. And when the time comes to maybe switch out of this role, then I'll see what's the best fit for me. On my own time right now, I'm trying to mentor as many people as I can and help out with their portfolio reviews and applications to any companies. And I'm trying to use that as a learning experience for me and also to help others.
That's great. Outside of design, are there other careers or side projects you're interested in?
Yeah, I think on my own time, I'm really passionate about cooking and finding ways to find my favorite foods and then making it healthy enough for me to enjoy it as well. So that is something I've considered. Start creating, a recipe blog or a lifestyle blog to kind of help others who might be similar shoes or might be able to take some things from my blog and just make their lives a little easier. But yeah, that is something I'm considering for now.
That's very cool. So, from 2014 to 2018, you were a social media influencer, working with brands like Chevrolet, J. Crew, and Huawei. You also had over 30,000 followers, which you still have now on Instagram. Can you share what started your social media journey? And also why you're currently not active?
For sure. So I think what started it was in high school. I just absolutely loved photography. I was always craving to do something more creative. So I bought a camera, started taking pictures, and Instagram was up and coming then. So I started posting it on there. And at one point, Instagram had a contest called Weekend Hashtag Project. And I started joining it every weekend and creating all these creative photos. And eventually I was able to get featured on there, and Instagram selected me as a suggested user. So that's when I was able to increase my following and had a lot of engaging users. And that's when I started reaching out to a lot more brands to do a lot of collaborations and kind of do a bunch of unique creative photos for them to kind of put their brand out there. But over time, as I got older throughout university, I started to realize that it wasn't the right fit for me. I really enjoyed my time. I still absolutely love traveling and love photography, but um, certain aspects of Instagram started to get to me. It wasn't as authentic as it should be, at least for me. I was posting all these travel photos, and I might be recovering in a hospital and not feeling well, and it wasn't a true depiction of what my current life was. And I decided to take a break from it, and it was really great for my mental health. And I decided that if I were to ever return to it, it would be more representative of my current life and my current values. But nevertheless, I think it was a great learning experience for me to dive into photography and probably help with a lot of my visual design skills as well. So, but yeah, over time I decided it wasn't the right fit for me, and I wanted to be more genuine and authentic with myself. Yeah.
That's super respectable. You've shared that there's one time you're in Japan, you were very ill, and then your family had to get you.
Yeah, I was very ill, and I decided to go to Japan anyways. And shockingly, I was more ill in Japan, so um, I had to get my dad to fly out to Japan and get me and fly me back home. And yeah, that was not a fun time. I was able to enjoy some of the trip, but yeah, that also made helped me reflect on like following my gut and listening to my body. Yeah, is really important.
And why had you gone to Japan?
It was just more for a personal trip. I wanted to kind of go across the world again and also wanted to take a lot of beautiful pictures. But it didn't end up being as ideal as I wanted it to be. But yeah, thankfully I got home safe and I was able to recover after that. So I was very lucky. Yeah.
So, if you do ever return to social media or start having an online presence, how do you think you'll maintain a healthy relationship with trying to gain followers and attract people versus staying true to yourself?
hmm I think the mindset I would go into it with if I do return to social media or blogging, it would just be at the end of the day, if I was able to help one person, um, then I did my job. I think that's an important thing for me to remember, and it's not about the followers per se or whatnot. It's more about engaging the right people and actually being able to help the right people. And I don't think I would be as focused on growing my blog to increase followers per se, but probably reaching out to the right groups. For example, I'm part of this Heart Life Canada group where a lot of heart failure patients and heart transplant patients come together, and that is probably somewhere that I would probably reach out to people and share my blog, and hopefully it would actually help somebody there, rather than trying to gain followers that I wouldn't necessarily be able to help because that wouldn't be my main goal if I were to go back to social media.
I think a lot of people would benefit from hearing your perspective on life. Because what's striking me so far is you're just so positive about everything. It's so easy for all of us to get very down, and most of us don't have to worry about not being able to eat, speak, walk, or breathe in the near future. But you just take it all in stride.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think we all have our low moments, and um, but I do try to be as positive as possible most of the time. But I also remind myself that it's okay to be sad sometimes, and it's okay to be feeling low because it's all part of the process and it's normal. And that's what having a great support network is for, and we can always support each other.
Who's part of your support network?
My family's been there since day one. Like ever since I got sick and diagnosed, they've always been there. Every time I'm in the hospital, they immediately leave work and come to spend time with me. So my family is a huge support to me, but also my friends. Just having friends that are there to listen and just to empathize, and also having friends that just know when you just need a distraction for a day and be able to help you live in the moment and rather just focusing on what the future might be. I think has been a really big blessing, and I've been really lucky. So yeah, I think my support network is thankfully I'm really glad to have a good one, and it's been I think it probably has helped my health a lot in many ways.
Yeah, that is such a blessing. What would you say has been your darkest time, quote unquote, and how did you get out of it?
My darkest time would probably have been when I first uh, was diagnosed. I think um, I was always a person who had a really long plan, and had all these things planned out. But with chronic health condition, you can't plan things as much anymore. You really do have to take things in strides, and I think those low moments eventually turn into anger. Why is this happening to me? But I think over time, I was able to view some of those uh, things as a blessing. Like, you appreciate your day to day a lot more. You live in the moment a lot more because you know how valuable that is, and you don't take things for granted. So, yeah, I'd say that my most slowest moment was when I was first diagnosed, and I think being 17, like it was very hard to hear that and not knowing, what's next for my life. But I'm very glad that I invested in myself and gave myself a chance to go to university. And um, and my health has, you know, gone on longer than what the initial doctors have said. So I think I think it was the right decision for me to kind of pursue my dreams.
It must have been so difficult to get that kind of prognosis when you were 17. You said you felt lots of anger and you got over it. What got you over that anger?
A lot of my anger was around not having peers that really understood what I was going through. Um, you know, Peers my age didn't understand it because they didn't have the same sickness. Other people who have the same sickness might be 40 years older than me, and they're just at a different stage in life where, maybe they're retired and they have more time to cook, or they can take a step back in life. But for me, I felt like my life was just getting started, and it was very difficult to find others who were going through the same thing. It felt like almost managing two full-time jobs, my health and then also trying to get my career going. And it was just a lot of anger of like nobody really understanding me. But what kind of helped me get through it was I met somebody, and I'm actually not really close with them. I met them at an event actually, and she shared her story, and it was the first time that I shared my story, and they also shared theirs, and they've gone through something completely different. But she went through a very hard concussion, and she went through a long period of depression. And she had the same feelings of anger that I used to have. And she explained to me that, other people can't understand how I feel because they've never gone through it. And if I think back just a year before when I was 16, I don't think I would understand what it's like to go through it either. So I almost realized that I had to empathize with people around me, that if they've never gone through it, it's very hard for them to understand. Slowly I started to come out of that shell to realize that I can't be angry at the people around me, because it's very hard to understand if you haven't gone through it. And what I can do is learn to empathize with other people and what they've gone through, and that can help me, um, understand myself better and understand others better as well. And I think that's one great thing about being a designer is being able to empathize in your job.
Right. In design, accessibility is a big field. Is there anything you do as a part of that?
Yeah, I have to say that I'm still very much learning as a designer. I'm trying to read books on my own time to learn more about accessibility, but I can't say I'm an expert just yet. But hopefully, over time, as I kind of grow in my career, I hope I can kind of dive into that a little more. And I know a lot of companies are trying to grow that initiative, and hopefully, I can be a part of that.
What kind of dreams do you have for the future? For example, you want to start a blog. Are there other things you really want to do? Like, would you ever want to go travel more?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think if my health permits, I would definitely take some time out to travel some more. I feel like traveling really helps us learn about different cultures and also empathize with other people, and just learn a lot of things that you wouldn't learn about yourself otherwise. Um, Traveling is definitely on the list. I originally had a plan to do a road trip across the United States, but the pandemic happened. But maybe afterwards, I will take some time off to do so and be able to visit all the states that I want to go to. I primarily just want to eat my way across America, so that's the plan. I can definitely don't need to fly either, so that's something that is really helpful for me. But other plans, I've been just really been into financial investing and being really smart with my money. And coming from a business background, I think it's something that interests me a lot. So that's something that I've been looking into a lot and probably setting up for my next kind of financial investments going on. Yeah.
Right, that makes sense. With muscular dystrophy, you're not as certain about your ability to work in the future. Does that play a role in trying to build this security for yourself through, say, investments?
Definitely. I think one of the hardest parts of living with a chronic illness outside of work is not really understanding financial planning. For example, I don't know how long I'll be able to work full time. It might be a long time, but it also might be a very short time. And that definitely provides a lot of uncertainty. And at least in Canada, it's really unclear of like what kind of financial tools I can use with my level of disability, and it's very unclear. So, if I were to start a blog, that would be one of my goals. Is just to make it a little more clear for people and understanding how they can prepare themselves for a financial future. Because it definitely is a very stressful factor about having a health condition and not knowing how to prepare for your future.
Mm-hmm, that's very smart. What advice would you give to people with chronic health conditions, especially ones which affect how long they're able to work?
One big thing is just reminding yourself that it's okay not to know what your next steps are, and just take it day by day. If you're feeling really stressed out about it, I like to take a step back and just, you know what, maybe I will think about this next week. Um, and sometimes being in the right headspace for it actually does help you figure out what's right for you. Um, but I think what's most important is, what's right for you might not be right for others, and what's right for others might not be right for you. And I think at the end of the day, you'll always know what's right for you and stick with that decision, because that will make you the most happy, and that's what's most important.
As people with disabilities, it can often feel difficult for us to compare ourselves to those without them. Is that comparison trap something you ever struggle with? And if so, how do you get over it?
Yeah, I think I've fallen into it a lot myself currently. Just sometimes I push myself really hard because I almost feel like I need to rush everything in my life, to hit all those milestones that other people would have the chance to because they have more time. Um, and I almost feel like I need to kind of rush and finish things earlier than others. But whenever I kind of get into that mindset, I remind myself that um, it's not about a race, and if I'm not going to enjoy the journey throughout, then it's not really worth it. So um, I don't know. I just need to, taking time off work and just even like cooking a nice meal at the end of the day to help kind of de-stress and kind of get out of that mindset really helps me kind of think twice about feeling like I need to compare myself to others when I think I just need to um, do what's best for my health condition.
It's been really nice to talk to you, Jason. Do you have any parting thoughts? Anything that's been on your mind?
I think I've been thinking a lot about how are people kind of coping with being at home. I think it's a lot harder than it is usually, but what are ways that I can reach out to more people and just make their day better. So and that's been just kind of on my mind on occasion. But yeah, I've started to slowly kind of build a network of others who might be going through something similar and just checking in on them, and I think it also helps me to kind of reconnect with myself, and when I do so as well. So yeah, no specific parting thoughts in particular, but that's something that I've kept in my mind since the pandemic started, is just checking in more often with other people, and sometimes um, that really helps me, and it also really helps others. So yeah, that's just something that I've had on my mind. Thank you so much for, I also wanted to thank you for kind of setting up this time to talk about these topics. I think it's really important to talk about it, but there isn't always the platform to do so. So yeah, I wanted to thank you for kind of putting that time to do so.
It's really my pleasure. How can people contact you or follow your work?
They can contact me through any kind of social media, LinkedIn or Instagram, or even send me an email. They can also go on my website and contact me there. So yeah, many ways to contact me. Always happy to connect with people and talk about anything, design or chronic illnesses, or even just recipes if you have a good recipe. So yeah, very open to connecting with other people.
That's great. Thanks so much again, Jason, for your time today. It's really been a pleasure. See you around.
Sounds good. See you around.
Jason Au was a delight to interview, and I'm thankful he's so open about his learnings. I had 3 main takeaways from today's interview. First, health is your number 1 priority. Work pressures can make us feel we must sacrifice our well-being, but it's never worth it. Jason realized this firsthand after many moments, like during one internship when he worked so hard that he almost needed a heart transplant. 2, set your boundaries. Jason had negative work experiences when he didn't share about his condition. Now at Uber, he lets colleagues know about his needs and sets boundaries with his schedule. 3, build enjoyable activities into your daily routine. Jason takes the time to savor the pleasures in life, like cooking after work and being with friends. His chronic illness reminds him to value time even more. For the episode transcript and notes, like links to Jason's website and the Heart Life Foundation, go to projectlifetime.com. There, you can also comment on, rate, or subscribe to Project Lifetime. And thank you, listener, for tuning in. What were your takeaways? I'd love to hear them. I'll leave you with a metta meditation, also known as a loving kindness meditation. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you be peaceful and at ease.